It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to have a reaction discussion video submitted by one of you guys in the Discord community. So if you want to join the community and submit your own videos, your own suggestions for discussions and things like that, you can go ahead and join with the link in the description. Just make sure that you scroll down, hit the knife emoji at the bottom so you can speak with the rest of us, post things and other stuff like that. This video is from DBD Balance Beyond, titled "The Problem of Content: A Dead by Daylight Discussion." Now, the original video will be linked in the description. Support their channel by going ahead and watching the full video on your own, and I'll only be talking about like sort of parts of the discussion, obviously, because this is not a replacement for their video. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to talk about a couple things.
So many content releases, they're also adding new systems, reworking old ones, and making various buffs and nerfs to killers, add-ons, perks, and maps. All of which means that none of these things get the focus and attention they need. The Nightmare rework was, frankly, pretty poor. The killer was made slightly more interesting to play, but his add-ons are still boring, Dream Palette explosions are pointless, and to top it all off, playing against him is just annoying.
So I agree and also disagree with this point here. I do think that Freddy did kind of become just slightly better than he was in a sense, right? Because the idea is that you're using snares to slow them down, which is what it used to do. And of course, like, you know, as a result, I actually did stop really playing Freddy really that much anymore as a P100 Freddy, mind you, like, who was a Dream Palette enjoyer, who was actually learning like snare placements and things like that. All that kind of got thrown out the window, and overall I would say that it is a good rework. Now the add-ons, I would say, are probably not super unique. I would agree with that. I would say there are definitely like some things that I think make him feel pretty bad. I would say that his lack of hindered is very terrible. Like, I think that they should have made it 15% hindered like Clown, so that at least he can hold his own against Clown in that sense, because 13% I think is still very, very low for like what he really has to do around tiles. And I do think that it's even more prevalent now because of the palette density, that you just simply are not going to get a lot of value out of the hindered, plus the fact that Vigil is meta, so Freddy, I think, falls a little bit behind because of that. Because he applies hindered and Vigil will reduce the effects, you know, the duration of it, so you're not getting hindered for very long. Like, you're getting very low amounts of hindered anyway. It's a very short duration and things like that. So and the jump rope doesn't only gives you 11%, so it's 11% of the 12 seconds, so it's not a lot. So yeah, I can agree to an extent that, you know, he is not like super amazing, but all at the same time, like, you know, this is probably the best we're gonna get. And he did actually raise up to a decent level. Now when it comes to playing against him, I can't really speak on that. I don't play any Survivor. And honestly, like, going against him is similar to like going against Clown, or you just kind of have to have that, like, that sort of knowledge as to, you know, how to play against him and stuff like that. I would not say that the counterplay is very difficult. Now, fun is a whole nother discussion. That is a purely, like, you know, feelings based type of thing. Like, that's purely just anecdotal stuff. I can't really speak on whether it's fun or not, in my opinion. But I would say, objectively speaking, it is still better than he was, but I do think that, if, like, in the grand scheme of things, I do think that he falls a little flat in some areas. So that's where I stand with that.
The ability to project to healing survivors basically forces survivors to wake each other up constantly before healing. It's just deep wounds with a different lick of paint. Of the 92 perk adjustments made during the past year, only a handful were meaningful. Most hardly saw any significant improvement, and, let's be real, even fewer have made their way onto the roster of perks you can actually see people using.
Depending on how we frame this is going to determine how I respond to this. Now, the thing is that Ruin got buffed up and it's still dog shit, and the other perk that's being highlighted, I think that Scene Partner is exactly the same as it was. I don't think it's that crazy, but Vigil I think is extremely overtuned and was unnecessarily buffed, and I still stand by that. And I think it's even more buffed by the additional 10% to exhaustion from Ghost Notes. So I think that at least when talking about Vigil specifically, we have to be, a bit self-aware here to understand that that is one of the worst changes that DBD has ever done, because of just the mere existence of having so much exhaustion recovery when exhaustion is the meta is ridiculous. Like, it is just another nail in the coffin, basically just further proving that the game has been and has continued to be survivor favored since forever at this point. And it's been proven basically now with tons of evidence. So that's pretty insane.
The map and key reworks were pretty mediocre as well. The new charges system was interesting, however, the other changes felt like a side grade, given that they lost certain functionalities with their changes.
I do agree to some extent that it could be interesting, however, I also don't think that it really makes much of a difference because of the fact that people never ran maps anyway. They never ran keys anyway, unless they were using wall hacks, which were ridiculously cheeseball against a good majority of the cast that doesn't have undetectable. And I argue that the map is even more overtuned now than it was before because of the fact that it has palette and window tracking, essentially allowing for a fifth perk slot for survivors when they already are capable of bringing stacks upon stacks of perks in Swifts. So by adding an additional bonus for survivor, I really don't think this is really necessary, because now you can have windows of opportunity in your pocket and also run multiple broken other perks that you can stack onto it, creating an even more well-rounded build that really is not necessary. Basically making a Swiss Army knife of one player, which is really bad. I really do not think that that should be allowed in the game. And yeah, it's not good. It's not a great change.
Finally, they only have 5 add-ons each. A pretty poor selection that does little to make items more interesting or customizable. Overall, the result wasn't that noticeable. People went from not using them over medkits and toolboxes to not using them over medkits and toolboxes.
Now, the reason I'm going to add on to what is being stated here, the reason that they don't use medkit, anything besides medkit and toolbox, is because of the absolute strength that those items have. I think, in my opinion, they have way too much utility. They have way too much impact on a match. I think that it should be spread out. I think that it should be completely shifted into minimizing what those things are capable of doing, right? Because, like, think about it this way, right? The map does one thing, right? It shows you what it does. It shows you this, or it shows you the killer item, or it shows you windows and pallets now, like, or whatever. And then that's all it does. We can look at the key. It can open the hatch, or it can show you, well, I think now it just opens chests faster, and I think it can open the hatch now. And I think it can show you, like, the aura of your teammate or something, or whatever it does. And it does the one thing, maybe 2 things at most. Like, that's the 2 things that it does. Depending on the rarity of the key determines if they can open the hatch or not. The rest of the time, it is simply there to open chests faster. Now, the problem is that we have items like medkits that can heal yourself, heal others, insta-heal, provide endurance. And those things are insane. Because a full health state without having to heal somebody somebody having to heal you rather, and having also the option to have an insta heal, or also the option to heal others and double if not triple the speed, is extremely impactful on a lot of characters in the roster, and is extremely impactful on a match. Now, if we were to follow the same logic as a map, they could make it so that only purple medkits heal others, or heal yourself rather. They could make it so that you can only run the one iridescent, right? And you can't run anything else. You could do a lot of things in a way to restrict the strength of these things so that it's not super overtuned as it is now. And let's also keep in mind that toolboxes also function the same way. A toolbox can repair a gen in the speed of light, right? So that's also basically providing charges to the gen in half the time, right? The most popular being a green, or now blue, version of the toolbox, the Commodious, that offers 32 charges, 32% of the generator, with a 50% speed increase. And that stacks. So when you're putting that on top, you're basically gaining 32 charges just for free. Like, just because you have it just in your pocket, boom, you have almost a third, like almost half of the gen is almost done just because of that thing. And on top of that, it can also sabotage the hooks, meaning that you can completely disable an entire hook state from going off because of the mere fact that you just happen to have an item. Extremely impactful. Extremely. And it works the same way with the medkit too. You have the syringe. Oh, now you won't go down. Now you won't go and give and allow for a perk to activate, right? Pop won't activate. Pain res won't activate. What surge won't activate. Whatever have you. Like, these things are so incredibly impactful that it's like, why run anything else? And even furthermore than that is the blood point economy. We're getting blood points out the wazoo. There's an event every other day. There's already bonuses you get every week for a couple hundreds of thousands of BP that allow for them to level up their survivors very rapidly, and therefore recharge and replenish all their items, despite the fact they love to complain about losing their items when Franklin's was a thing. The fact of the matter is they're easily replaced. So I really don't understand why that was ever a thing, why they ever complained, right? And even touches into the whole Lightborn discussion, why people complain about that either. When flashlights are useless anyway if you're not even nearby for a save in the first place, but that's a whole nother discussion. The fact of the matter is, like, these items are applying and like have a level of impact that is so drastic and so high that really it outweighs any other item choice. And that goes to show even why the smoke bombs were completely like just shat on basically when they got nerfed, because of the fact that the matter is, like, they only way that you could equalize, and this is what makes it so crazy about the items, the only way that you can equalize the playing field with another item is to make it as overtuned and as broken as medkits and toolboxes could possibly be, by making an item remove all sound and scratch marks and visibility to be spammed infinitely. Is the only way that survivors could possibly believe in their minds that they can actually compete with a medkit and a toolbox, which already goes to show you how overtuned that it is. Because why does the item need to be extremely broken and game breaking just so that you can have another option to choose an item? I've always thought that was crazy, because you could easily just rework the items to not be as crazy, right? You can make it so only one single medkit can do that, and then the rest of them can only heal others, and don't have healing speed bonuses and things like that, right? Whatever combination you could think of. I think there's a lot of different ways. Now maybe you should have a healing bonus or something, but maybe it only heals one person and that's it. Like, just some way to cut it down, because the medkits and toolboxes are too impactful. They're too ridiculous. And the fact of the matter is, you can open up another chest and get a brand new one, or you can bring a perk that instantly recharges them. So the fact of the matter is, it's going to show you that it's way too overtuned.
The point is this: when behaviour make changes, they go for quick and easy solutions that often do little to address the core issues with a killer, perk, or add-on. It all feels bare minimum, and they just introduce an excessive amount of these minimalistic changes that rarely do much to really affect the game or really solve problems. Further, they don't take the time to see how those changes impact the game after release, if at all they do. It's just shipped to live and then they almost immediately move on. Next chapter, next rework, next set of number changes.
That exactly pretty much describes how behavior decides to balance things. They just band-aid, they masking tape it up, and that's it. They just move on with their day as if like, oh yeah, that'll work, and it's like, no, it won't. Like, your lack of knowledge and incompetence behavior is what's causing you to make these ridiculously brain-dead changes. When people are literally telling you, with more experience than you about your own game, how to make the thing correct, how to change the thing correctly. But of course, they pull from the poisoned well, like I've described in previous videos. The data is poisoned. The well is poisoned. They pull data from that spot because you have survivor mains, entitled survivor mains that are essentially masking themselves or disguising themselves as killer players to basically skew all the data and to skew all the feedback to their favor, meaning that they want to completely gut the killer side. Because there would be no other explanation for why they would say, oh, the killers were saying that it's a bit too handholdy, so we took out the barbecue aura reading and the haste, and we gave you bloodlust. Like, there's no other, because there's no killer player that's ever said that. So I go, no, that is completely incorrect. But it just goes to show, and even their data collection is flawed. They aren't collecting data correctly, when that's supposedly their only way of being able to understand balancing. They have nobody there that can offer any information as to how the game is played and what the hell's going on in the match. And they think that band-aid fixes are going to be the solution. It's not. This game is a game of random situations that can occur at any point of the match, and perk synergies that are constantly discovered or at least being used in different ways, shapes, and forms creatively. This game is all about nuance. Like, this game is all about all these different factors that could occur. And to sit there and look at numbers and just think, oh yeah, that's gonna work, is flawed thinking.
And this means they can't allocate the time required to finalize and completely polish any of the changes or new content they introduce. So, what's the solution? Well, it's like I said previously, dear viewer, less is more. If Behaviour released less content in fewer patches per year, they'd have more time to refine the patches they do release.
I have heard this point before, and I've also slightly have made even the same statement before. But I realize that that is not entirely accurate, because even when they claim to slow down the patches, right? That's what this recent updates were, right? That's why we're in a bit of a drought when it comes down to content drops in these recent months. We've given them time, in a sense. We've given them plenty of time, and they actively have decided to completely put killers in the grave for the sake of just doing that because they love Survivor. That's the only thing they care about. They don't care about the killer players. They don't care about the Survivor players either. They just care about player count high, therefore money. That's the only thing they're concerned with, because they're not concerned with creating a good product to make money. Because if they were thinking with their actual brains, they go, if we make this game actually enjoyable for everyone who plays it, we wouldn't be leaking players. We would not be sitting here and having to create surveys of why people are uninstalling. We can create a game that everyone enjoys. We'll inevitably make a lot of money because it'll be so popular. They already have like millions of people who play the game. All those people who can see the game that it's actually good, that the devs care, that they actually want to make a good product, that they are listening to the feedback. I mean, we could even look at a game like Marvel Rivals, believe it or not. And they are sticking to the source material. They are trying to make it a gaming experience that everyone can enjoy, because at the end of the day, they want to make a good product and they want to make money. That's how it works. But that's a whole nother discussion. That's a whole nother video in itself of what I could talk about with behavior specifically. I'll probably do that in the future, but I don't want to get into that right now.
Sure, we wouldn't see 92 perks adjusted in a year, but when perks were adjusted or reworked, they could actually be made viable. We may only see around 20 perks changed in a year, for example, but if those changes were well thought out and impactful...
Well, that's the thing as well, like, if the changes, that's really the key term there, if the changes were well thought out and impactful. The problem is that they're not well thought out, but they're impactful. Because these bozos thought in their minds that we should make every killer perk completely dog shit. But, oh, we're gonna buff pharmacy, we're gonna buff botany knowledge, we're gonna buff resurgence, we're gonna buff empathic connection, we're gonna buff all of these ridiculous ass perks, vigil for some reason. We're gonna add in more perks that help the meta. Like, what? They don't well think out anything. Giving them more time simply is not going to do anything. Because we have already seen historically, they have not done anything with their time. They create these stupid changes that have no merit in reality. They have no idea what they're doing. And then we can just, like, it's ridiculous. We've even seen it even with the killer perk changes as well. They're completely brain dead, thoughtless changes. Just completely pointless. Like, oh yeah, let's make Insidious like a second to activate, like somebody's using Insidious. Like, no one cares about Insidious. Like I swear that perk must have got picked maybe 2% more after it got buffed and then went back down again, because nobody cares. It doesn't address the big issues. As a matter of fact, they actually nerfed a bunch of killer perks that didn't even need to be. Monitor and Abuse got nerfed for no reason. Like, why did Monitor need to be nerfed? What is the point of that? Like, that makes no sense. And then all it did was buff the higher tiers, which makes no sense, but, you know, that's behavior for you.
That could be 20 perks really shaking up the meta. As for new content, it would probably affect behavior's bottom line, but slowing down the release of new content could make the content that is released far more impactful. Taking the time to make sure that a new killer is fun for both sides, that the add-ons are interesting and varied, and that the teachable perks are fun and viable would make content releases far more exciting. To be honest, dear viewer, I wasn't excited for Sinister Grace.
Neither was I. Neither was I, I'll tell you that much. Neither was I. I saw the trailer, I saw the gameplay, I was like, nah, you could put that shit in the trash. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I'd never really cared about any of DBD's original content, and I still don't. And the reason for that is, ultimately, I've only joined because of the licenses. Ghostface, Freddy, Chucky, Pyramid Head, you know, Pinhead, you name it, whatever have you. Like, you can see with my P100s, I have on the game. P100 Ghostface, P100 Freddy, P100 Chucky, almost P100 Myers, P100 Pyramid Head. Like, I only care for the licenses. I don't care for the original content, because the original content is trash. Now, I will say, The Unknown, to me, was one of the best, conceptually, best marketing, best, like, sort of design, best, like, lore. Like, those things are great. I'm not talking about the gameplay, though. The gameplay is trash. But and the character is extremely weak and low tier. But I will say, beyond that the writers there, the artists, you knocked it out the park. Those people are who I care about more. I'm like, those people are key, man. Those guys are incredible. Because they wrote a great story. They came up with a really interesting design. Like, they came up, like, even the writing was incredible. Like, all of that was good. So I'll give them that. But the rest was trash. I'm like, I don't care about any of the original licenses. I mean, not original licenses, the original characters. They freaking suck. But that is going to be the end of the video. If you want to watch the original, it is linked in the description. Watch basically the beginning of the video and everything else. Basically on their channel. And you can listen to the full topic, the full video, and the full thing. You get the full picture. I'm only talking about a portions, little crumbs of what it really is being discussed. So that being said, thank you guys for watching. Consider joining the Patreon or members to have exclusive content, perks, and see just other content, of course, and to support me, of course. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know your thoughts, and stay tuned for all my members at the end of the video. Well, I wanted to go ahead and take some time out to thank all my members, from Patreon with Crow King 101, My YouTube members, Majora Jeff, N Dyer, Evil Peachy YT, Zero Mocker, Christian, Hexdev, and Crow Vader. And for my Twitch subscribers, Cake is the Road, Danica 2002, Final Girl _ Bunny, Acklefin, Chili Cinderace, Zero Mocker, Ginsburg, Johns 117 _ Lovely Ghost TTV, Jar TTV, Zazabu, and Crow Vader. Just wanted to thank you guys. And if you also want to have your name read off at the end of every video, make sure you join on one of these platforms to get one of those perks, as well as the other perks you get. So appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much.